A very warm welcome to one and all. Today we will be handling or seeing a few MCQ type questions, which is like having with answers. So without further delay, we will go one by one. Basically, these are sample question papers, which will give us a rough idea about how the examination patterns will be having. So these MCQ will comprise of all the syllabus questions. So first thing is, so these are all basic information with respect to minimum clearance width between handrail. So if you notice, like they would give this kind of questions, like whether it is 1200 mm, 1000, 1500, and 914. So these information are all available in NFPA code. So you can go and check whether this is exactly the right measurement or not. So 914 is the right answer. So you just have to click onto that particular measurement. And minimum tread for a staircase in mm is 300, 250, 200, 170. Basically, it is 250. How it is 250? We need to understand the anthropometrics, which we learned in one of the chapters, which talks about the tread width to be 250 mm. This is a minimum tread width, so it can even go till 300 also. But at some places, due to space constraint and due to the riser height to be much more higher than what is required, they may even go to 200 and 170. But that is not the minimum tread width, because in ideal condition, the minimal tread width should be only 250 mm, and the maximum it can go any number, but it is considered to be highly non-ergonomical in real sense. So the maximum riser for staircase in mm is, so maximum riser, if you have to notice, see, this whole concept of staircase is in such a way that as the riser goes higher, the tread becomes shorter. Now that is the basic fundamentals behind the uh, uh, staircase. So the maximum for a human being to walk or climb a staircase is 175 mm. So if it becomes more than that, it becomes too difficult for someone to climb the staircase, and that is exactly what it is shown here, 175 mm. Maximum riser per flight can be 12, 10, 14, and 16. Now out of this, 16 is the maximum riser we can have. Why? Because for an average human being, he needs a mid landing to take a rest, because for him to climb in one single shot more than 16 risers will make him very tiring, and he will find very, very nauseating. So to avoid such kind of health issues and palpitation, we give a mid landing for any staircase. So that is exactly told here in this one. Now, minimum distance between stair landing and swing of stair should be in mm. So minimum distance between the stair landing and swing of the stair. So if you notice, like, it has to be around 900 mm. The answers is already given 900 mm, but you have to understand why this is the minimum distance, because 3 feet to 3 feet or 900 mm is the minimum distance for someone to, like, take a turn, even if it is a one single person or two people coming opposite to each other. So that is the mid landing in the staircase for the swing of the staircase, for a person to take a turn and go to the upper staircase. So he needs minimum at least 900 mm. If it is less than that, it is going to be absolutely very difficult to carry any article or anything like that. What is the commercial size of ceiling tiles? Now, ceiling tiles are in the, for a matter, like, in terms of false ceiling, that is being asked here. So 1200 to 600 mm, 8 by 180 mm, 100 by 260, and none. Naturally, this is the commercial size which we are talking is 1200 by 600. That is 4 feet by 2 feet, which is the commercial size which is available. So this is the production. Every factory will have a machinery which can produce certain things. For example, now 4 feet by 2 feet. Once the material is brought to site, we can even cut into 2 feet by 2 feet, or wherever the size is, exactly fitting the particular location or the grid pattern. So an architect suggested to the client that a blank wall in one of the portion of the lobby be provided with mural painting. The client agreed and asked the architect to present a design for the mural painting. The architect hired a popular painter to make the concept design. Who will pay for the services of the mural painter? Now, if you notice, now the job is given to the architect, and the job, this is a very important thing because uh, you can always fight telling like already included in the fees of the architect to be decided by arbitration. It can be done by the architect on the client. Now, it totally depends on the contract, in the sense, if the object has been already mentioned in the contract, if the specification is already designed in the contract, then it is included in the fee structure of the architect. But if it is only a very tentative, or if it is only just a matter of suggestion, if you notice, an architect suggested to the client, if you notice, that is the key word. It is a suggestion, and the client also agreed for the suggestion. So you have to catch all these important phrases to decode what exactly was the story behind it. Because this, as per the architect, it is always a blank wall. Whereas he suggested, like, can we go for a mural wall there, mural painting? And then the client told, okay, because he felt it is going to add value to that place. So that way, like client has agreed to do an extra job, which is against the already accepted terms and conditions, which is given as a fees to the architect. So the client has to pay extra. At what stage are specifications done? Now, this is a very simple question, but you might get confused because at contract document phase or a specifications phase, construction phase, bidding negotiation phase. Now, specification is a separate phase altogether because it is the primary decision factor for you to do any other phases which is mentioned in this particular theme. So once the drawing is completed and accepted, specification plays a vital role. If there are two architects on a certain project, that is the architect of record and the architect in charge of construction, the building collapses, who is more reliable or liable? Now, this is a very, very serious question because I have been in both the roles. So, once an architect who designs the particular design or the construction of the building, he is the person who envisages the building design. He is the person who gives the clearance that this particular drawing is good for construction. And the architect in charge of construction is a person who receives the drawings, reads the drawings, and then he constructs as per the drawing. He doesn't question the credibility of the drawing because it is already undergone the procedures of credibility verification. So all the third party verification is all done. So the architect of record is actually liable for the building collapse. So the architect of record is liable for this particular collapse of building. Who prepares schedule of submission of detail and shop drawing? Now, this is also very much important in terms of real-time construction. The submission of detail and shop drawings can be sourced from the vendor or the contractor or anyone for the matter, but it has to be vetted and it has to be given a clearance and it has to be approved only by the architect. Otherwise, this particular job is not under the roles of the architect. So generally, once the contract is signed between the client and the architect, that this particular drawings is the intellectual property of the architect, it is the legality or the liability of the architect to produce such detailed drawings, irrespective of whether the drawing is done in his own office or if it is sourced from a vendor, out sub-vendor, but the shop drawing needs to be confirmed and approved by the architect. Guarantee to pay all obligations arising from the contract. Now, this is a very important thing in terms of a contract obligation. Now, there is something called proposal bond, guarantee bond, performance bond, and payment bond. Now, all these bonds are nothing but for the basic starting of the project or any project to kickstart and keep rolling. For example, the proposal bond will talk about how the project is being proposed and what is the performance and what is the final blueprint of the project. And guarantee bond talks about whether it will be done as per the obligations or as per the preset conditions. Payment bond is naturally about the you know uh, the financial portion of it. But guarantee to pay all obligations depends on the performance. That is, depends on the how one person perform with respect to the bond which has been written in the contract. So performance bond is the most important thing. Which of the following is a responsibility of the architect in the construction phase of the regular design services? There are various responsibility for the architect during the construction phase, like going supervising, giving, releasing all the drawings, and many things like that. But out of this, we have to see what is the most important thing. You have to be held responsible for failure of contractor to carry out work. Now, this is not part of the scope of an architect. The drawing is done, the 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 material specification is done, but the SOP or the standard operating procedure or the methodology of construction has to be submitted by the contractor, so that the contractor is the person who's committing that this is the way he will convert this project or carry out the work. So based on his understanding of reading the drawing, he will produce or he will give a methodology statement telling I will do this particular job in this fashion, and that will be quantified and approved by the quality manager who's or the project manager. So the architect doesn't have any role in the first point and makes exhaustive on-site supervision. Now, exhaustive on-site supervision has to be done by the project in charge or the project manager or the civil engineer who's at site, who's taking care of the site construction. So whereas the architects makes periodic site visits to the site. Yes, it is during the construction phase, periodic site visits is very important so that to make sure everything is done as per the drawing. Now, preparing shop drawings has to be done during the contract stage itself. It is not during the construction phase. So, contractual phase, we have all the drawings on board so that they can go for a bidding. No extension will be granted if no written request for materials supplied by owner is made by the contractor. This is like how many days before it is needed. Now, this is a very, very normal procedure which happens or which is bound to happen in any particular site where the project might get extended or because of the material supply and things like that. So the contractor needs to intimate to the client or to the owner few days before such kind of a eventuality. So it has to be given as a written request of materials. So that is made by the contractor 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, and 20 days. It is like 15 days to take into consideration about the lead time and waiting period. So all these things are considered into this one. That's why 15 days is given prior to the written request of the extension. Contract time starts how many days after receipt of notice to proceed? Now, exactly after the contract has been signed by both the parties, the owner and the contractor, and the subcontractors or whomsoever involved in this particular project, once the signing off takes place, the project needs to start. The notice to proceed, whether it is like we can start with the work, is eventually, whether said or not, it is always 7 days, that is 1 week's time. Within a week's time, you have to start with the basic work, mobilization. So that is why it is told 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, 15 days. It is basically 1 week's time we have to start mobilizing stuff. Now we can see the minimum tread we have seen in the 250 mm. Now the space required for one person on a dining table, or the space required for one person, that these things are there in the anthropometrics which we saw. It is 50 to 60 mm, 60 to 75 mm, 40 to 50 mm, and none. So in this particular, in this particular topic, we can make use of the method of deduction from ourselves. Even if we don't know the right answer, we can deduce the right answer by understanding how much our width is and what is the maximum width we will try to accommodate when we sit in a table, in a dining table. So we can understand 60 to 75 mm is a decent size for us to comfortably sit, which is a minimum space required for one person. There is a need to cover a hall with a slab of 25 mm. Which type of construction is the best? So if you have a hall and you want to have a slab of 25 mm, 25 meters a span, so which is a very, very huge span. Now, what is the best way to cover the 25 meter span is like a truss system, a concrete slab, the first two options on a space frame. Now, the most brilliant way to cover the hall of 25 meter span without any intermediate columns, the best way is to do with a space frame. So the space frame can take up the any number of span, and it can even like be very lightweight. Whereas truss and concrete slab really requires intermediate support system, so that the hall, the purpose of the hall is not taken into consideration. So you have to see what is the definition of a staircase flight. Number of steps with landing, number of steps without landing, none of the above, and no steps at all. Now, if you notice, staircase is one particular terminology which is defining one flight, that is from here to another portion. So the number of steps without landing, all the steps which is there within the package, is known as staircase. Yes. The foundation contractor will work with the following architectural plans: foundation, site plan, floor plan, none. Now, naturally, there is a very important aspect to this one. Just with the foundation drawings, he cannot start the drawing or start the work. With just the floor plan, he cannot deduce how the foundation will come. So the site plan is a very important plan which will give us the setbacks, how the building outline is, where exactly we can draw the center line marking, how much of excavation can be done, and what is the basic location of this foundation footprints. Everything will be given in the site plan. So that way site plan is a very important drawing. So once the architect has finalized the house plans with the client, any changes to the design requested by the client will require a change order, modification slip, whole new set of drawing, none. Now we have to understand why change order or a modification slip is not the right answer. Why? Because a change order is nothing but like, giving a separate suggestion so that we can change the design only for that particular area. A modification slip is also something similar to the change order, where only that particular zoned area will have a difference. But if you notice, the whole drawing is a one composite set of drawing, which will have, if you change a small wall in the floor plan, it will also reflect in the structural plan. It will also reflect in the elevation. Similarly, section. So every single detail will change based on the modification. So that is the reason we have to give a whole new set of drawings, which has to be understood. So what is important for sustainable design? Now, if you notice, sustainable design is a holistic performance of any project, whether it is architectural or any other subject. So we have to understand sustainable, that word itself is something very holistic. So when the topic like environment, social, economy is given, I'm very sure everyone can understand it's a combination of above three. Even if some more extra points are given in respect to the sustainability, you can include that also is a combination of everything. Now, which side should the facade face for passive heating strategy in northern hemisphere? Now, this is a very crucial question where we can understand the the climatology of our earth and how exactly we have to place the buildings. So which side should face for passive heating? So for example, passive means it's the heat given by the solar radiation. So if I am like in the northern hemisphere, the northern light is the most important light. So naturally, from whether the north, south, east, or west, we have to understand the northern area gets more of illumination or more of radiation. So that way, it starts heating the inside areas of the building. For sun path, which of the following is considered? Latitude, azimuth, or both? It is actually the latitude which makes more important for the latitude, the altitude, basically both are same. So we can see that is the most important consideration for the you know the sun path. What is not related to the scale of the facade of the building? Normal human space requirement, balance, and symmetry. So what is not related? What is related is different. What is not related is different question. So you have to understand what is not related to the scale of the facade of the building. So if you take a building, which is more important in the building, you have to talk about harmony, the symmetry, the progression, rhythm, and everything. Now that these things are not in comparison with the human scale. They are all with the building scale. So we have to understand the normal human space requirement is not part of the facade of the building. What characteristics of the occupancy and uses of building defines the building personality? So the building personality or the building typology is actually defined, based on the functionality, which we always read about it. So how functional or what is the functionality of the building defines the personality of the building. So for example, a police station, because of its functionality, it gets a different kind of an elevation. A hospital, because of its functionality, has got a different kind of a elevation. So that is exactly what is more important rather than giving a pseudo personality. At which stage architect makes a regular visit at site to check the progress and quality of work? Naturally, during the construction stage. Before start of the project, it is not for the architect to check whether it is right or wrong. Uh, so, so at construction stage, the architect is required to visit the site at a very important, because the rest of the site, rest of the works, everything happen at office. Which one is the correct practice? Client discussion, schematic design, program, detailed design, contract, etc. Or client discussion, schematic design, detailed design, program, and contract. So if you notice, like there's a small shift in the detailed design and program has to come in before. Naturally, we can understand the program plays a vital role in the design state. So that is the correct practice. What is the standard size for a single door? Now 100 by 220 in centimeters, 8 by 180 centimeters, 100 by 260. Naturally, 1 meter by 22 or the 2.2 meters by 1 meter will be the standard size so that we can accommodate the lintel and everything properly. Final as-built drawings for what purpose? Now, this is a very crucial thing for an architect who's at the architect in charge of construction. So he has to do these things for the as-built drawings so that it becomes the final version of the project. So if you notice, like, to keep record for later maintenance, to give more work to architect, to be used for further renovation. Now, renovation, though it might happen, but it is for the basically for the later maintenance, because we really don't know what was the on-site conditions and on-site instructions which were given to change the drawing into as built. So it is a very important drawing to be done. Project management is ideally suited except accountability, flexibility, innovation, speed, repeatability. Exactly. Now, if you notice, project management is except they have told. So, project management is very important for accountability, flexibility, innovation, and speed. But project management is basically not suited for repeatability, because the whole purpose of having a project management is not to repeat the same job again and again without much wastage. So project management is best suited not for repeatability, to avoid repeatability. Project selection criteria are typically classified as financial and non-financial, short term and long term, strategic and tactical, required and optional. Now, most of the projects, though they have all these things like short term, strategic, optional, everything are very judicious in terms of decision making. But in terms of constructability, whether it has to be really constructed or not, now that becomes financial project. So whether it is financially viable or non-financial project, that is the most important criteria. In which of the following stages are you more likely to find status reports, many changes, and the creation of forecasts? If you notice, in terms of the iterations which happens during conceptualization, will not have many changes, though it might have many changes, but the status reports and creation of forecast is not something which is likely to find in the conceptualization state. So conceptualization, defining, planning, they have some amount of changes and forecast, but at the same time, they don't have all the three things which has been mentioned. Whereas in execution, execution is a very critical stage where it has all the other three like status reports, changes, and forecast. So execution is the most important stage in terms of construction. Which one of the following is suitable in engineering manner? Decision shall be made or based on reason that than situation. So decision shall be based on reason than situation is quantity thinking, logical thinking, interpersonal skills, or honesty. Now, naturally, the most important and primary information or the character which everyone should have at site or as an engineer is honesty. So the decision shall be based on reason than situation directly means nothing but honesty. An activity in a project network can be represented by which of the following with respect to the CPM methods? The arrow, line, node, all of the above. It is actually the arrow which talks about the activity in the activity oriented network method. So we have to understand the activity is shown by the arrow. Who is responsible for determining how tasks will be done in a matrix project management structure? The functional manager, the project manager, both are responsible. This is no pattern of who takes responsibility. Now, when we talk about project management, the we have to understand the task generally will be designed or defined by the functional manager, because he is the planning manager, functional or the planning manager, who takes the entire responsibility of fixing up how the tasks will be done in this entire structure. Because if no one takes responsibility for this one, then the project manager cannot do both the jobs. So he cannot plan it as well as he cannot do the construction at site. It is a very tedious job to take responsibility at site. Whereas the planning manager has to give a proper sequence of procurement and the schedule of works. If you were awarded a project, you will start work 1 week before the approval of the authorities, after the approval of the authorities, 1 day before the approval of the authorities, or none. Naturally, We have to start mobilizing and working once the contract is signed off is a week's time. But how do we really start work as such? In the sense like real-time work at site is only after getting the clearances or the approval from the authorities. Yes, you are supposed to, you can do these kind of activities. And they will also have a checklist to check whether the site is being properly demarcated for from the any any activities which is dangerous to the surrounding people. And they will check every single activity whether the material is coming with the site with the right vehicle. All these things will be checked. So approval is very important. Scope of management starts with this: to identify the client requirements, meet the team, review strategic plan. None. Actually, if you understand the client requirements properly, and the entire management scope will be like encompassed. So the team, whether it is one or two, whether we have a very great strategic plan, without the basis of the understanding about the client requirement, we can never understand what will be the scope. Which of the following cycles is not one of the stages of a project life cycle? Now, project life cycle means, once the project started. So project start means like naturally we have to define, we have to plan, we have to execute. So we have to start with every single thing other than conceptualization. So conceptualization doesn't guarantee that the project is going to start. So that is a very important criteria to understand. A point. Now, what is meant by a point? Whether it is one dimension, two dimension, no dimension, or none. It doesn't have any dimension because point can be placed in any space at anywhere. So they basically don't have any direction. Top down estimates are most likely to occur during the dash phase: concept phase, planning phase, execution, delivery. All of these are correct. Now, top down estimates means understanding what exactly is the design outline. So from the design outline, we come from a major scale to a smaller version to understand what would be the cost of the project. So a top down estimate is nothing but a ballpark figure or a rough estimate to understand what will be the project's cost. This can happen only during the concept stage, because at planning stage and execution stage, we will be already having the final drawings and the specifications and the bill of quantities, whereas a top down or a ballpark estimate can happen only at a concept stage. The process of forecasting or approximating the time and cost of completing project deliverables is called budgeting, predicting, estimating, and planning. Estimating is the right answer because in terms of forecasting the time, we can tell predicting or even planning. If you are only forecasting the cost, we can tell it is called budgeting. But when we are clubbing the time and the cost, it is known as estimating. So it is a very important point in terms of construction. Activities which can take place at the same time are termed parallel activity, critical path, burst activity, merge activity, independent activity. Naturally, at the same time is always known as parallel. When you are doing some job, we have to talk about parallel activity. So that is known as parallel activity. The first step of scope planning starts with budgeting, current earnings estimation, objectives and requirements to satisfy customer. Now, let us understand the other two topics: current earning estimation. Now, what is the estimation, which we arrived only after the budgeting? And next thing is like, satisfying the customer is something after the execution. So first step of scope planning, the first and foremost step is to understand how much would be the budget for the project. What is the allocated budget with which we can understand how we can find out the estimate. So budgeting is a very important crux. The project structure that is ranked as least effective is functional organization, balanced matrix, weak matrix, strong matrix, and project organization. So functional organization is considered to be the least effective because most of the times the hierarchy is only based on the functionality. not rather than it is not a balanced matrix. So most of the times the balanced matrix have been very successful organization. The assessment of the external and internal environment is called dash analysis. It's known as the SWOT analysis: strength, weak, opportunities, and threat. Now, that is exactly what is shown in the analysis, which is very, very mandatory in all the markets of industries, like it is competitive or industry, market, strategic, wherever it may be. The SWOT analysis is the critical thing for assessment. Which of the following is the number one characteristic that is looked for in management candidates? Overall intelligence, works well with others, experience, past success, good references. Now, though every single point looks very, very important, but now we are not recruiting a person for just his personal opinion. We want to work as a team. So, team management or the team coherence is more important than anything else. How we delegate the job, how we get the job done out of someone else. These are all very, very important and crucial. Working drawings are a set of assembly and detail drawings. Whether it is true or false, it is true. With these drawings only, we are able to do all the detailed version of the construction. This should show what changes were made, when and by whom. What are these things? Portable document, record of revisions, title form, revision drawings. Now, record of revisions and revision drawings are both of the same genre, but the revision drawing is nothing but just the drawing which is having the revision number R1, R2. But the record of revisions is nothing but a Excel sheet matrix which will have the revision drawing number. It will even tell what is the revision written in that one, done in that particular thing, and when is the revision done, who made the revision, for what purpose the revisions were made. Everything will be written in that particular document. Now that document is a one single shot document where we can understand what could have been the stages of construction in that particular site. The science which deals with the sound insulation in a building is known as reverberation, transmission, acoustics, airborne. Now, the reverberation, transmission, airborne, everything falls into one single component called acoustics. So, acoustics is the science which deals with the sound insulation in any building. Dash is made in connection with the construction of streets, water supply systems, sewers. In city surveying or transverse surveying, cadastral surveying, hydrographic surveying, we have to understand city surveying is only having the entire connection with the construction of streets, water supply systems, and sewers. Whereas the other surveying is only for one particular method of surveying. For example, the hydrographic talks only about the aquifer and the water line. The cadastral and traverse are done only for basic surveying of the site, whereas city surveying is done encompassing every single component. So with this, we are completing the MCQ for one portion. We will have such MCQs done in the later stages also during the final live sessions. Thank you.